Check this out. Right now, you're probably doing at least 3 things simultaneously. Maybe you're watching this video while checking emails, scrolling social media, or mentally planning dinner. We call it multitasking, and in our productivity-obsessed culture, we wear it like a badge of honor. We pride ourselves on juggling multiple screens, conversations, and responsibilities simultaneously. But what if everything we've been told about multitasking is wrong? Today, we're diving into the fascinating science of why your brain actually hates multitasking, and why understanding this could transform your productivity, well-being, and even your relationships. But what if I told you that multitasking is actually making you worse at everything you do? And that one of history's greatest philosophers figured this out over 2,000 years ago? Let's start with a surprising truth. Multitasking, as most of us understand it, doesn't actually exist. What we call multitasking is really task switching, rapidly shifting our attention between different activities. And this constant switching comes at a significant cognitive cost. When NASA's Pathfinder spacecraft landed on Mars in 1997, it encountered a critical problem. Several days into the mission, transmissions suddenly stopped. The spacecraft was, in effect, procrastinating, keeping itself fully occupied but failing to do its most important work. The culprit? A bug in its scheduler, the system that tells the computer how long to work on each task before switching to another. Ironically, our human brains face a similar challenge. Every time we switch tasks, we experience what scientists call a switch cost, a delay that happens when the brain stores information related to one task and redirects attention to another. Studies show that people take an average of 25 minutes to fully recover from interruptions and return to their original task. This means that if you're switching between tasks every few minutes, you're operating at a fraction of your cognitive capacity all day long. When we attempt to multitask, blood flow increases in an area of the frontal cortex called the Brodmann Area 10. This region helps us remember that a task isn't yet completed when we start a new one, keeping the first task in a kind of pending state. But maintaining multiple pending states is mentally exhausting. It's like trying to juggle. The more balls you add, the more likely you are to drop them all. No, researchers at the University of Sussex found something even more concerning. People who frequently engage with multiple media devices simultaneously have lower gray matter density in the anterior cingulate cortex, the region responsible for cognitive and emotional control. While this finding is correlational, we don't know which causes which, it suggests that chronic multitasking might actually be changing our brain structure. Long before brain scans and productivity gurus, Aristotle had profound insights about human excellence that directly apply to our modern multitasking dilemma. Aristotle believed that excellence isn't an act but a habit. Central to his philosophy was the concept of entelechy, the state of having reached one's full potential through complete attention and focus. In his Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle wrote, "For one swallow does not make a summer, nor does one day. And so too, one day, or a short time, does not make a man blessed and happy." Excellence, in other words, requires sustained practice with complete attention. You cannot achieve mastery through divided focus or shortcuts. The Stoics who followed Aristotle's philosophical tradition took this idea even further. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Do not disturb yourself by picturing your life as a whole. Instead, ask yourself what demands the present moment places on you, and then meet that demand." This is essentially ancient monotasking advice. Be fully present with each task, each moment. Modern neuroscience confirms what Aristotle intuited. Our limited attention capacity creates another fascinating effect called inattention blindness. When we focus intensely on one task, we can become completely blind to other stimuli, even when they're right in front of us. You may have seen the famous invisible gorilla experiment. Participants were asked to count basketball passes between players wearing white shirts. During the video, a person in a gorilla suit walks through the scene, stops, beats their chest, and walks off. Remarkably, about half the viewers completely missed the gorilla because their attention was focused elsewhere. This same phenomenon explains why drivers on cell phones, even hands-free phones, miss critical visual information. Their visual processing resources are being diverted to create mental images related to their conversation, making them functionally blind to certain aspects of their environment. But wait, surely some people are better at multitasking than others. Perhaps you consider yourself one of the gifted few who can juggle multiple cognitive balls without dropping them. Unfortunately, research suggests otherwise. A study from the University of Utah found that the people who believed they were the best multitaskers were actually the worst performers on multitasking tests. The most skilled multitaskers, it turns out, are those who avoid multitasking whenever possible. This creates a dangerous illusion. The worse we are at multitasking, the better we think we are at it, leading us to do it more often and perform even worse. This phenomenon is a classic example of what psychologists call the Dunning-Kruger effect, where people with limited knowledge in a domain overestimate their own competence. In the case of multitasking, our brains are remarkably poor judges of their own performance. Consider a fascinating experiment conducted at Stanford University. Researchers divided participants into two groups: heavy media multitaskers, those who frequently use multiple devices simultaneously, and light media multitaskers. They then tested both groups on their ability to filter irrelevant information, switch between tasks, and maintain working memory. The results were striking. The heavy multitaskers performed significantly worse on all three tests. They were more easily distracted, slower at switching, and less able to organize information. Yet when asked about their multitasking abilities, they consistently rated themselves higher than the light multitaskers did. Why does this disconnect exist? Part of the explanation lies in how multitasking affects our perception of time. When we rapidly switch between tasks, our brains create the illusion of productivity. We feel busy, therefore, we must be accomplishing a lot. This sensation of busyness triggers dopamine release, creating a rewarding feeling that reinforces the behavior. Additionally, we rarely receive accurate feedback on our multitasking performance. Unlike a basketball player who immediately sees whether a shot goes in or misses, knowledge workers often don't get clear metrics on efficiency or error rate. Even more concerning is what researchers call multitasking's threefold threat. First, it reduces our cognitive capacity. Second, it increases the likelihood we'll make mistakes. And third, perhaps most insidiously, it makes us think we're better at it than we actually are, creating a vicious cycle of diminishing performance and increasing confidence. This illusion is particularly dangerous in high-stakes environments. A surgeon who believes they can operate while answering questions, a pilot who thinks they can safely fly while chatting, or a driver who feels confident texting. All are putting lives at risk based on an inflated self-assessment. So next time you catch yourself thinking, "I'm different, I'm actually good at multitasking," remember that thought itself might be the strongest evidence that you're not. The alternative to multitasking is what some call monotasking, focusing completely on one task at a time, and the benefits are substantial. Eyal Ofer and colleagues at Stanford University found that people who engage less in heavy media multitasking are better able to filter out external stimuli and irrelevant information. They're less distracted and more focused. When we monotask, we're also less stressed. Studies show that workers experience less frustration and exert less effort when they can work on one task at a time, even if they're completing the same amount of work overall. In academic settings, students who avoid digital distractions during lectures earn higher grades, retain more information, and report greater satisfaction with their education. Perhaps most surprisingly, monotasking may make us more creative. When our brains aren't constantly switching contexts, they can make deeper connections between ideas and explore problems more thoroughly. Modern neuroscience confirms what Aristotle intuited. When we focus deeply on a single task, our brains enter what's called a flow state, that feeling of being completely absorbed in meaningful work. During flow, several remarkable things happen in your brain. Your prefrontal cortex temporarily deactivates, reducing self-criticism. Your brain releases neurochemicals like dopamine and endorphins. Your brain waves shift from beta, alert, distracted, to alpha, relaxed focus. The result? You work faster, more creatively, and with greater satisfaction. One study found that people in flow states are up to 500% more productive. But here's the catch. It takes about 23 minutes to reach deep focus after a distraction. Every time you check your phone, that clock resets. So how do we apply this ancient wisdom and modern science to our hectic lives? Here are 10 powerful monotasking techniques that blend Aristotelian wisdom with neuroscience. The Pomodoro technique with a Stoic twist. Set a timer for 25 minutes of focused work. Before starting, write down your singular intention for the session, what the Stoics would call your ruling faculty. When distracting thoughts arise, acknowledge them and return to your stated purpose. Digital minimalism. Remove non-essential apps from your devices. As Epictetus said, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Control your digital environment to support focus. The 5-minute rule. When you feel the urge to switch tasks, write down the distraction and commit to staying on your current task for just 5 more minutes. This builds the neural pathways for sustained attention. Mind mapping. Before starting complex work, create a mind map of all related tasks and thoughts. This practice, inspired by Aristotle's systematic thinking, gets distractions out of your head and onto paper. Daily reflection practice. End each day with a brief written reflection. What did you accomplish by focusing deeply? Where did distraction diminish your work? This builds self-awareness over time, what Aristotle would call practical wisdom. The virtuous 20-minute focus practice. Aristotle taught that virtue is developed through habitual practice, not through knowledge alone, but through consistent action. This technique embodies his principle of hexis, state of character developed through habit. Cultivate the self-discipline to focus completely on a single task for just 20 minutes. Before beginning, set a clear intention, what the Stoics called prohairesis, deliberate choice. Turn off notifications, place your phone out of sight, and close unrelated browser tabs. Neuroimaging studies show that even brief periods of sustained attention strengthen neural pathways in the prefrontal cortex, making future focus easier. After your 20 minutes, take a short break to allow your brain's default mode network to process what you've learned before continuing or switching tasks. Strategic batch processing. Interrupt coalescing. The Stoic philosopher Seneca lamented how many waste their lives by poor allocation of time. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Rather than checking emails and messages continuously, batch them into scheduled blocks. Assess how frequently items truly need responses. If nothing is more urgent than hourly, check exactly that often. This approach, borrowed from computer science, preserves your brain's focused state. Research from the University of California found that workers take an average of 23 minutes to fully return to a task after an interruption. By batching interruptions, you protect these crucial recovery periods. Crafting a eudaimonic environment. Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia, flourishing through virtue, requires creating conditions that support excellence rather than merely avoiding bad habits. Deliberately design your physical and digital workspaces to support deep focus. Remove clutter, use browser extensions to block distracting websites, and employ apps that limit social media time. As Marcus Aurelius advised, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Research in cognitive psychology demonstrates that attention is a limited resource. Environmental cues can either decrease or preserve this resource. Studies show that even visible reminders of distractions, like a phone in view, reduce cognitive performance. Attentional mindfulness practice. Aristotle believed contemplation, theoria, was the highest human activity. Modern mindfulness connects to this ancient tradition of disciplined attention. Engage in daily mindfulness meditation focuses specifically on attention training. Begin with just 5 to 10 minutes of observing your breath or a simple object. When your mind wanders, as it inevitably will, gently return your focus to your chosen point without judgment. Research by David M. Levy and colleagues demonstrated that knowledge workers who practiced mindfulness meditation showed significantly improved ability to stay on task and reduce stress during demanding cognitive work. Neuroimaging shows that regular meditation changes brain structure in regions associated with attention regulation, aligning work with natural rhythms, kairos. The ancient Greeks distinguished between chronos, clock time, and kairos, the right or opportune moment. Aristotle taught that wisdom includes understanding when to act. Observe and map your natural cognitive rhythms throughout the day. Schedule your most demanding focus work during your peak hours and save routine tasks for low-energy periods. Keep a simple energy log for a week to identify your patterns. Modern chronobiology confirms that cognitive performance follows predictable ultradian rhythms, 90 to 120-minute cycles of higher and lower alertness. Research on chronotypes shows that some people naturally perform better in the morning, larks, others in the evening, owls. Timing your focus accordingly improves performance and well-being. These strategies aren't merely productivity hacks. They represent a coherent philosophical approach to attention that bridges ancient wisdom and modern science. As Aristotle taught, we become what we repeatedly practice. By cultivating these monotasking habits, we don't just complete more work, we develop a character capable of sustained excellence and deeper engagement with what matters most. A final thought from Marcus Aurelius that captures the essence of monotasking. Do not disturb yourself by picturing your life as a whole. Ask yourself what demands the present moment places on you and then meet that demand. Let's be realistic. Sometimes multitasking is unavoidable. In those cases, be strategic about which tasks you combine. According to a theory called threaded cognition, conflicts arise when multiple tasks require the same cognitive resources. For example, it's easier to listen to instrumental music while writing than a podcast, because a podcast competes with your verbal processing. Similarly, walking while talking on the phone works well, because walking is largely automatic and uses different resources. But driving while talking is dangerous because both draw on overlapping visual and spatial processing resources. If you must multitask, try to pair activities that use different cognitive resources, and never multitask when safety is at stake. Multitasking isn't a superpower. It's a modern myth that's undermining our work, relationships, and well-being. By embracing the ancient wisdom of monotasking, we reconnect with a more natural way of being that aligns with how our brains actually function. As Aristotle taught us, excellence comes through consistent, focused practice, not by dividing our attention. So the next time you catch yourself trying to do multiple things at once, remember, your most productive ancestors weren't the ones who juggled the most tasks. They were the ones who mastered the art of doing one thing well. The question is, in a world competing for your attention, what deserves your focus right now? Which monotasking technique will you try this week? This is just the beginning of our journey into using ancient wisdom to solve modern problems. If you found value in this video, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming exploration. Until next time, focus well, my friends. Thanks for watching.